Good day, everyone. I am Engineer Joselito Baring, a chemical engineer, the principal designer for Floyjas Water Tech Incorporated. We design, build, and construct wastewater treatment using our rotating biological contactor, a biofilm technology. So I will be your speaker for wastewater solutions, biofilm in the future, and stay with me for the next 30 minutes as I will discuss the development of my technology from start to now. Talking about wastewater generation, the first question that will come to our mind is that why is it that our country waterways remain extremely polluted, and we join with the rest of the bottom dweller nations that are having extremely polluted waterways, and what is our problem that make us be like this. We observe sometimes that right under our very nose we can see discharges of raw wastewater from industries or facilities that discharge raw wastewater without calling those discharger liable for their mistakes. Why is it that way? Then we have the Clean Water Act that is enacted in 2004, and that basically it is 16 years old now, and yet we are still starting to do something about this, and there is really a big problem. We have all the solutions, but we have no answers. In 1996, I accepted a challenge to make an effective wastewater treatment facility and to make it cheap. With that, I made my own version of a system. From the things that I heard, I choose rotating biological contactor to make. Although I have not seen RBC nor know about its operation, because at the time, internet is still not very popular. Once I finished my creation, I discovered that it is novel and original, so I applied for an invention patent and it was granted. So that was the start of the development of my invention, which is the rotating biological conductor. I'd like to show you pictures of the first few RBCs prototype that we have done. And this is in 1998, we have installed the second prototype in a resort. And here it is. And in that RBC, we still use the floater styrofoam material. We thought that biofilm will grow into the floater and not on the screen, but we are wrong. So in the third prototype here in LGU, we already eliminated the floater. We just left it as space in between media or the screen. Originally we used screen, and until now we have proven that the screen is really working well in holding on the biofilm that we are developing. Here are some of the early brochures that we're having for our marketing of the RBC, and this is the first RBC that we have done on fiberglass. The first prototypes are using the concrete tank, while this is the first prototype using the fiberglass. Okay. In the other side, we have also made a floating RBC on the slaughterhouse. So we installed floater. These are the floaters here, and then installed the RBC in the middle. So this is the story of our RBC. This is now our latest design of the RBC with fiberglass tank, and we have eliminated the metal support. We don't want to be defeated by corrosion, and you can see that the media is still in the form of screen as per the original media that we have used in 1998. So it is only the structural component that we have improved and changed, and that we have to minimize as much as possible pollution. And this is startup RBC. just starting up to treat waste. After this, I would like to bring you with another presentations that I have on actual RBC installations that we're having. And we start with a new one. We install RBC on a new installation or we do retrofitting. The next video that I have spliced into this presentation are part of my presentation in other forum, and I have sliced it in so for you to know and learn what I'm really doing. Watch next videos. Before the advent on the need and demand for effective cleaning up of wastewater, we all have septic tanks. There are already many changes and modification in its structure, but septic tank is still a septic tank. We may consider ourselves as lucky considering that we found a technology that can deal with septic tank head on. We can work with an existing septic tank as long as its last chamber is sealed bottom and concreted. We normally install a lift pump in the last chamber. One of the most advantageous factors when using septic tank is its ability to trap solid material, particularly plastic, from reaching the secondary treatment system. It becomes least of our worries. Based on our experience with different kind of wastewater from domestic, commercial, and industrial, one of the most effective way for waste minimization scheme is separation of waste stream. And we can only do that if we are allowed to get involved in the design of the septic tank when it is not yet constructed. The trade where the septic tank might belong is to sanitary engineers, but we can offer our suggestion during the design stage to give us a better position in bringing the wastewater to our system. Here is an illustration that we would like to show you how we do it. This is a complete wastewater treatment for hospital wherein we are tasked to design, build, and fabricate a completely operational unit. You might notice that we have an irregular shaped septic tank. This is the only available space allocated to us and we just have to maximize it. You may notice that there are lots of chambers and each of these chambers have specific functions. Let us first follow the toilet and bath stream in the diagram. First, it gets into the digestive chamber that is colored yellow and would overflow to the leaching chambers 1, 2, 3, where lift pump is being installed for the wastewater reaching leaching 3 and will be lifted up to the anoxic tank upstream. Laboratory wastewater are not supposed to be included in this design. However, the owner insisted that it should be part of the septic tank. We agreed that it will be contained in a separate chamber and if it will interfere with the treatment later, it should not be allowed to overflow into the digestive chamber and should be hauled off regularly by a third-party TSD facility. They agreed to control the toxic waste from the laboratory by not disposing chemicals into the sink. And it will just be dedicated for glassware cleaning with detergents and nothing more. Laundry wastewater sits as another stream that will join with the wastewater overflowing into the leaching chamber 2. The fourth wastewater stream comes from the kitchen. We prepare a separate chamber for it as it is most challenging waste stream. It needs special attention. First line of defense in the kitchen are those grease traps. Normally, very little if OG are catch and retrieved in there. If OG continue to evade traps along the way, should it be allowed to mix with other waste before any good and effective pre-treatment is done? Expect a disaster could be experienced at the secondary treatment. In this chamber, we install separate lift pump to lift it up into our proprietary grease separator that I call SIBO packages. This grease separator could recover as much as 60% of the grease and allow conditioning of the grease prior to RBC treatment. This is a design and build project. We would like to show you the actual construction of the septic tank that we have previously described. We perform the actual civil works as the proponent only want to have one entity to be responsible for the system. On other projects that we have, we just provide advice and suggestion for the septic tank design, and we are comfortable that the general contractor will just undertake the civil works. Anyway, from the picture, you can see that we met some challenges, but this one, which we have not anticipated, like the water coming in when it's high tide. You see, this site is not very far from the shore, and the water table is affected by the tidal changes. And this is the solution that we have done. We have performed a lean concrete before we start with the actual putting up of the bars. Anyway, the soil foundation of this area is quite good. As we continue with the construction of the septic tank, as shown in the attached picture, you might notice that there are some extended manhole here, like this one shown here. This is due to the changes in the finished ground elevation of the project, and we have to level up with it. We cannot make major changes on extending the slab elevation as there are no more cost adjustments. Instead, we just have to extend the manhole height to level up with the new elevation. On the other hand, I have seen similar STPs with this similar configuration, and it is being installed with diffusers and used as secondary treatment. I believe there should be an easier and convenient access for the maintenance personnel. In this case of a septic tank, manhole access might be already appropriate as servicing is done in a large time interval. While when it is an operational STP, there should be a better access to make sure that the STP will be visited daily and monitoring will be continuous. After completing the septic tank construction, we proceed to the construction of the RBC concrete tank, this one, and the platform for the pre-treatment, this one. This is now the completed and operational unit of the RBC treatment system. Emphasized in these pictures are the plumbing that we have used. This one here. We have the blue and orange pipe. The blue pipe comes from the lift pump, this one, and this one. These are coming from the kitchen wastewater and from the leaching chamber 3. The pipe passing down here, this one, is the return line to the septic tank. And this pipe are the overflow line of the RBC towards the treated water tank. Return line to the septic tank has a big role to play as it will initiate anaerobic circulation needed by the anaerobic treatment of Anamox process. Phosphate will also be reduced by the anaerobic circulation system used by ammonia treatment. Phosphate will also be carried by the so-called phosphate accumulating organism called PAO or PAO. A circulating anaerobic system flow rate is being controlled by this valve. It is being manually set to provide continuous return while at the same time continuously feed to the RBC as part of its treatment. This is the RBC pre-treatment setup consisting of the oil separator and the anoxic tank. The oil separator is a proprietary design. This is the one which I call Cebu Pacjes, which is the grease separator. There are two anoxic tank, this one. One anoxic tank, this one, is serving the grease separator. This is serving the liquor coming from the leaching chamber 3. From this picture, you can understand now how the separation is being implemented in the system. The blue pipe enters through the tube located centrally in the tank. It gets into the tank by specific gravity difference. Oil and water are separated by a series of barriers inside the tank. At the end of the journey inside the tank, the grease will be collected in this part here, where it could be drained manually towards the grease collection tank. This one. Grease is to be taken out manually from this grease collection tank. This is the valve that needs to be open to collect the grease from above so that the grease will transfer into the grease collection tank. Other valve installed for any settling food material in the grease separator that might have come with the kitchen wastewater. In the grease collection tank, it will be manually collected with an advantage of having less odorous grease and better position during collection as it do away with the pitching of grease from a below ground pit. All the grease cannot be separated. Only about 60% of the grease is separated and collected here. Overflow from the Cebu packages transfer to the dedicated anoxic tank through this pipe to further perform conditioning effect on the greasy wastewater. The anoxic tank in this case do have an internal recirculation with extra side tank attached into it. It has one submersible pump in here. To provide more anaerobic recirculation, this valve can be opened and it will send the liquor into the digestive chamber for more anaerobic recirculation. The other anoxic tank is serving the wastewater coming from the toilet and bath and laundry. This is a completely closed loop system with minimal extra sludge generation. Wastewater treatment nowadays are becoming complicated because of stringent effluent requirement by the regulatory agency, and if you will not comply with those requirements, then you will not be given with the permits, and that we have to provide compliance action plan wherein we have to promise that we will retrofit and improve the current system that we're having so that it could comply with the standards, especially with the new parameters that are being required, such as ammonia and phosphate. And that is why we have this video, because we would like to share our experience in the actual compliance action plan. Title for this video as biological nutrient removal. There is an existing wastewater treatment that we have retrofitted and made into integrated fixed frame activity. In the biological nutrient removal, we need to undergo various treatment processes, and that is why we have titled this slide as Age of Multiple Treatment Processes in treating wastewater. So if you have aerobic process right now, it cannot do alone all of those activities that need to be done so that ammonia and phosphate can be removed. So you need some help, and that is why we will be sharing with you our experience on that regard. This is the activities of our retrofit. Number one is we convert aerobic oxidation needs to become anaerobic digestion needs. So we take out the aeration part while maintaining the mixing part. Then we insert rotating biological contactor to perform anaerobic, anoxic, and oxic processes within the system. This is the oxidation needs while it is still in aerobic process. We encountered lots of problems like floating sludge, especially when fats, oil, and grease is coming in. So this is what it looks like. And then it will be carried over to the sedimentation tank or clarifier. So in effect, we have less sludge retention. And here, as it reaches the sedimentation tank or clarifier, it floats on top of it, so it will be carried over. However, when aerobic process become upset or have an upset condition, then this will be the look of the oxidation dates. So this is upset, no more treatment in that case. So we have to clean it up, and this is due to FOG chemicals and unchecked waste coming into the oxidation dates. This is very odorous. So this is the oxidation dates that we have converted into anaerobic digestion dates. And you can see the color change. This is a looser look of the lacquer, anaerobic lacquer. You can see the sludge, the anaerobic sludge that are moving around. So the mixing is still continued while the aeration is being stopped. So that's the jet pumps that we are using to make it happen. So this is one of the component of the biological nutrient removal process wherein we converted the oxidation dates from aerobic process into an anaerobic process. So before we used to have a problem with FOG. Now FOG can just come in because it will be handled by this anaerobic process, and it will be moved around by a jet pump. So it is moving slowly. You can see the movement of the vapor, and although it has no cover, but it is anaerobic. Maybe the oxygen of the surface is there, but you cannot penetrate. This is the second component of the BNR, wherein we are using a compact rotating biological contactor that is rentable. So this is the biofilm that we can see as it receives the wastewater coming from the digestion needs. So this is a closed loop of the biofilm, a very healthy biofilm that is doing anaerobic, anoxic, and oxic treatment while it is rotating on the wastewater being fed from the anaerobic digester. This is rotating on 1 RPM. So this is the other side. So the motor is 1 horsepower, driven by 1 horsepower motor, and the diameter is 2.4 meter. And that this is the valve that controls the inflow of the wastewater going to the RBC. This is manually set, and you can see that this RBC biofilm is 5 months old, and it has never been detached from it, so it's continuously thickening in the media of the RBC. So, and then going back to the clarifier, this is the clarifier when we are using the aerobic process, particularly when there is the uh, oxidation leads like this. So here the sludge, floating sludge gets into this sump and going into the clarifier. This is the aerator, the jet or the aspirating aerator. So there are lots of aerator. We use aspirating aerator and jet aerator in the aeration of these oxidation leads. Now you can see that there is a lot of fossil and grease in the oxidation lead. So this is a problem with that. As you can see, that the clarifier is already filled up with the floating sludge or scum that is being washed out from this aeration basin or oxidation leads. And we'll show you the clarifier when it is already using or being used as part of the BNR. So this is already the clarifier that are receiving wastewater coming from the RBC. So here you can see that there's no floating sludge. This is the sludge tank or the sludge return of the oxidation leads. And finally, this is the effluent wastewater that is continuous and consistent with its effluent quality, and that the analysis of this water or effluent water uh, marked reduction in ammonia and phosphate. In fact, there are times that phosphate already past standard and that ammonia is also closing in. So here is the actual setup of the oxidation leads. It's a big area, and this is a 25-year-old facility that's still being very useful and been providing good quality effluent for treatment. This just happened when we converted it to BNR, but before the conversion, we have also a big problem in the effluent quality. We have to be very, very watchful for the effluent quality because it will just change easily especially when fat cell and grease come in. So this is the overall change that we have, and that whenever when the capacity will reach about full, then we hope that this will still work for the treatment of ammonia and phosphate. So this, right now it is perfect combination. So if you need us, then you can contact us through this through our Facebook page, and you can send email to us, and we will answer you. So that's our presentation for the biological nutrient removal, and we have done it for Ijum, wastewater treatment facility. And it is quite hard to do it, especially if you don't have an area. But with RBC, you can find some area if you will ask or rely upon us to do your retrofitting.